Welcome to my channel. Hello Kitty Murder. 1999. Thank you to my viewer who suggested today's content. Fan Man Yi was born in 1976 in Shenzhen. Her family would abandon her as a child, and she was raised in a girls' orphanage in Ma Tao Wei. At the age of 15, she was asked to leave the orphanage, due to the age restriction. She had nowhere to go, and ended up homeless. She would soon turn to drugs. She was forced into prostitution to survive, until she was age 21, when she went to work in a brothel. Fan eventually married one of her regular clients, Ng Chi Yuan, in 1996. 2 years later, Fan gave birth to their son. The marriage wasn't a happy one. Her husband was abusive and violent, and neighbors often reported hearing the two of them fighting. Fan decided to try and turn her life around, for the sake of her son, and left her husband. She got a job as a hostess at a nightclub, but found it a struggle on her own, due to the low income she received. On March 17, 1999, Fan was abducted by 3 men and a girl from her home. One of these men was Chan Man Lok, who had been one of Fan's regular clients at the brothel. He had convictions for drug trafficking. Fan was imprisoned for a month in an apartment which had been rented by Chan. The plan was to pimp her out to other men. However, while she was imprisoned, she was subject to violent torture and sexual assaults. The torture was so violent, it eventually led to her death. It was on April 14 or 15 that she sadly passed away. The men returned to find her lifeless body. In order to dispose of her, they dismembered her body, and boiled the remains. Her skull was placed inside a Hello Kitty toy, while the rest of her body was discarded. The police were led to the scene of the crime on May 24 after a 14-year-old girl told them about Fan's death. The police went to the apartment and found the decapitated skull of Fan inside the Hello Kitty toy. She was identified on June 3. At the time Chan was arrested, he was living with his wife and newborn baby. On December 7, 2000, the 3 men went to trial, and were found guilty of manslaughter. The jury could not rule that the men had intended to kill Fan, but determined that she had died as a result of her abuse. The men were sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years. Chan tried to appeal this, but lost his appeal in August 2007. However, one of the men, Leung Xing Cho, did manage to reduce his sentence to 18 years on appeal in 2004, and was released from prison in April 2014. However, he was arrested 8 years later for sexually assaulting a 10-year-old girl, and was given 12 months in prison in August 2022. Fan's birth family were notified in March 2004 that her remains would be returned and cremated. Fan's son and former husband now reside in Singapore. After the murder, a necklace which had belonged to Fan was given back to her son. To this day, the Hello Kitty murder case remains one of the most disturbing in Hong Kong's history. We want to remember Fan, who despite her struggles in life, tried to turn her life around, but sadly, didn't get the chance. Alan Ray Greenberg. 2011. Another thank you to my viewer who suggested this content. Alan Ray Greenberg was born on June 23, 1983 in New York City. Alan graduated from Penn State as a communications major. She eventually decided to go into teaching, and went to Temple University at night, to gain the qualifications she needed. She was a first-grade teacher at Juniata Park Academy in Juniata, Philadelphia. She lived in Manayunk, where she lived with her fiancé, Sam Goldberg. She had a good job, and was set to be married, but in 2010, she decided she wanted to return back home to Harrisburg. It is unclear the reason she decided this. It was on January 26, 2011, when a blizzard hit Philadelphia, and the school closed early. Ellen returned back home early. At 6:40 p.m., Ellen was found deceased, after being stabbed 20 times. Bruises were found on her arm, abdomen and leg. 10 stab wounds were found on the back of her neck. Ellen's fiancé was at the gym at the time, and had returned back to the apartment they shared to find the door dead bolted. He tried to get into the apartment, but couldn't. He finally broke down the door, to discover Ellen slumped in the kitchen. However, the scene wasn't treated as a crime scene, and it was believed she had done this to herself. An autopsy was conducted, and the medical examiner ruled the death as a homicide, but police still declared this as self-inflicted. It is unclear why they determined this, and the scene was never treated as a crime scene. Henry Lee, a forensic scientist, who testified in the O.J. Simpson trial, and also at the Michael Peterson trial, stated that the number and types of wounds Ellen had, along with bloodstain patterns observed, were consistent with a homicide scene. Sandra Greenberg, Ellen's mother, said that she had spoken to Ellen the morning of her death, and didn't give her any indication that anything was wrong. Ellen had also filled up her gas tank before going home that day, which seems odd, if you were planning on hurting yourself. Ellen was being treated for anxiety, and it is believed she could have been on medication for this. In October 2019, Ellen's parents filed a civil suit against the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office and Marlon Osborne, who had conducted the autopsy. In January 2020, the court allowed the case to proceed, and a trial was set to begin in 2021. In August 2022, the Chester County District Attorney's Office announced it would reopen the investigation into Ellen's death. However, an appellate court panel upheld the ruling that Ellen had done this to herself. Unfortunately, if the case is ever reopened, any evidence from the scene has long gone, and would make it even harder to determine if foul play had taken place. It is unclear why the police went in and decided that she had done this to herself, and never investigated if someone else was involved. Ellen's family continue to fight for the truth. Her death does seem puzzling. The way in which she picked to end things seems bizarre. The door was locked from the inside, giving the indication no one else was inside, and she had locked this herself. Why didn't the police investigate her death, and rule out any other person's involvement? Why did they go in there and determine the cause straight away? Unless the case gets reopened, and new evidence found, her death will remain a mystery. We hope the family will get the answers they deserve. In these two cases, sadly, both Fan and Ellen passed away at such a young age. Our hearts go out to them both. May you never be forgotten. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel to view other content.